I have been speaking on nation brand for quite some time now. As a matter of fact, an earlier version of this presentation was presented at a keynote address where I was invited by the Speaker Bureau of the State Department to speak and deliver an address at the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy in Berlin. At the time, it was in celebration of the tearing down of the Berlin Wall and unifying East Berlin and West Berlin. And it was quite a moving experience for me because although I fly frequently to Germany via Frankfurt Airport as I travel around the world, but it was my first time to visit Germany and to visit the remarkable city of Berlin. How can we defy the negative perceptions and how can we project a positive perception in order to move forward with initiatives that relate to sustainable development, that relate to creating new jobs, and so on and so on. So the landscape, basically, of addressing and researching the nation brand is rather multifaceted and requires us to have really interdisciplinary way of looking at it, as I mentioned a little earlier. So the big challenge in how to balance the nation brand in terms of the identity versus the image, in terms of the internal stakeholders versus the external stakeholders, in terms of the past history and heritage, and where are we now and where are we planning to move forward strategically in the future. All of these are very big challenges to balancing and harmonizing, if you will, the nation brand. So what is a nation brand? When we talk about nation brand, how do we define a nation brand? Nation branding is about building sustainable differential advantage in order to defy existing or pre-existing negative stereotypes. And oftentimes, that represents a big challenge to the branding agency or to the nation branding board that overseeing the strategy of the nation brand, and more on that later in our discussion this evening. So in this context, nation brand identity is strategically balanced in order to effectively communicate to diverse audience groups. Because of that diversity of the audience groups that we are targeting and the multiplicity of the channels that makes the case even more challenging for balancing and harmonizing the nation brand. So how can we do it? Nation brands are strategically managing their brand stature and utilizing brand methodologies in order to integrate elements related to public-private sector initiatives and perceptions as it relates to trade, tourism, investment, technology, talent, culture, natural resources. All of these bundled together are really integral part of the nation branding mix, if you will. Several nation branding initiatives are underway here, and I'm going to cite some of these examples as cases that include Mexico, Switzerland, Singapore, South Africa, Australia, of course, and the United Arab Emirates. As a matter of fact, we have seen recently, just in the past 3 years, how the United Arab Emirates really jumped up in the nation branding ranks. We're going to look into what are they doing that have led to this remarkable positioning of a young nation, only about 40-year-old nation, and how that nation remarkably have positioned itself as one of the top nation brands. So we're going to talk about that. You see, the core element that relates to the nation brand is truly the culture. Everything revolves around the culture of that particular nation. No? You know, how people live their lives, what products they buy, how they celebrate music, how do they treat the visitors, and all of these are elements that revolve around that important facet of the brand, and that is the culture facet. So we are going to look more deeper on the importance of the culture as it relates to building brand elements, as it relates to building the nation brand persona and projecting the nation brand persona, as it relates to even changing and defying some potential negative brand stereotypes due to certain cultural taboos that are prevailing, and we correct that and change that in a positive, truthful, and authentic way, and that really core element of the nation brand. So the challenge, as I said, is balancing your nation brand.
Be still, so you may hear the dreams of the people below. Pay no attention to the impossible they whisper, for he does not belong here. As a road rises, you find the land, majestic, calm. The space, the air, the breeze, the buzz, the thrill, and the back of beyond. Engaging, refuge, home, inviting, but never foreboding. The beast's heart will pound beside ours. As night crackles electric, a million promises are held. Day rewards night with a perfect dawn, and dawn rewards in turn. And nature rewards an inquisitive mind. In a land where the impossible is defined and ignored.
So there are two basically faces of the same coin, two sides of the story here. One story that we are progressive, that we are welcoming, that we are modern, that we are moving forward. Yet the other side of the story, that we never pulled roots, that we are back connected to our heritage, we are proud of our culture, and so on and so on. And that makes really the task of building the brand from the stand of the nation brand or the destination brand, in this case, much more complex. Some of the factors for us to balance again, these dimensions of the nation branding efforts, requiring coordinating body, top leadership commitment, looking at nation branding not only from our point of view, but also from the audience point of view. Our point of view meaning the locals, the nationals, but also the others' point of views, the visitors. Very important aspect of that. Or our audience, whoever our audience be, could be foreign nationals that live in Abu Dhabi. So knowing your own brand is not good enough. Having also contingency plans to address and how that brand have elasticity enough if there are any challenges that relate to bad news or misperceptions, and how that brand stature that we are building have the elasticity in order to overcome and respond to some of these challenges over time. And defying also cultural stereotypes. One particular, when I started talking about, what's your favorite country, and oftentimes we talk about our home countries. And when we say, what's the favorite country that you would like to visit, or what's the country that you aspire to visit, or what's your favorite country that you have visited, the story is different. So there are different rankings, of nations. One of the prominent agencies that have won awards is FutureBrand. FutureBrand does have the country brand index that issues every year, and this is the most recent release, and it's very interesting to see Japan is #1. So when we look at Japan, Switzerland, Germany, Sweden, Canada, and look at the list, and one of the top 20 here is the United Arab Emirates. As a matter of fact, the United Arab Emirates is the only country that is not an industrialized country in that list. So that represents a very interesting case that we are going to talk about today, and we are going to arrive into how, over a very short period of time, strategically, a young nation, for example, as in not just United Arab Emirates, but there are other examples that I'll talk about as well that have succeeded in moving forward with their branding initiatives and really rebranding or building their nation brand very strongly. Yeah. This is the full list. There are other rankings also. There is a ranking by Interbrand that is published annually by Business Week as well. I just chose this particular ranking here because it makes my point even stronger in linking the nation brand with the made-in factor. The made-in factor is really very interesting part of the equation that oftentimes is not looked at, made-in, is not looked at as a crucial element of the nation brand, and we are going to look into that more deeper. As a matter of fact, George Washington University was one of the partner institutions that were involved, and I was proud to have been called on to provide my insights on that with the study, the Made-in study that was published last year by FutureBrand. So I commend FutureBrand in really moving forward with that, and probably one of very few agencies that have looked into the Made-in ranking. And this is a Made-in ranking by FutureBrand. We see the US here on the leading edge here of the country. But one of the very interesting points here that I want to point out is China. Okay, yeah. Top 10 list. Remember, China, probably 10, 15, 20 years ago, that would not have been the case at all. There was a negative stereotype about Chinese products. So how China, over a relatively short period of time, have defied that misperception about their products. This is the nation branding highlight of the Made-in factors that relate to the study. Number 9 in the ranking globally is China. And what is really important here is the multifaceted aspect of Made-in. When we talk about Made-in, are we talking about the country of origin of the corporate entity of that particular company here? Or are we talking about Made-in in terms of the country of manufacturing, or is it the country of design? iPhone by Apple say designed in California. They don't say manufactured in California. They don't say made in California. They say designed in California because it's really manufactured elsewhere. Okay? Which really illustrates that the Made-in factor is very complex in itself in terms of the Made-in as it relates to the resources and materials, in terms of the design aspect of the Made-in factor, in terms of the manufacturing facilities, in terms of the design element, as I mentioned. So it's really a multifaceted aspect, a multi-layer here. 5 layers are related to the Made-in according to FutureBrand. Again, What is the source of design? What is the source of manufacturing? Where is it assembled? And where is the corporate headquarters of the corporate brand is based? Is it in Switzerland? Is it in US? And does that make any difference or not? Very interesting. Then we go into the ranking by cluster. And this is really the main, in my opinion, the main contribution of this particular study is looking not only about who are the top ranked nations with respect to the made-in factor, but also by industry cluster. So automotive, for example, if we are to pick on that, number 1 is Germany, number 2 is Japan, number 3 is the US. In terms of food and drinks, not surprisingly, France, Italy, Spain, and so on. Luxury, Switzerland, France, Italy. So what we are saying here, nation branding, not only can it revolve around of the made-in factor and the country of origin, but also can benefit greatly for what I call it cluster branding. How to build a brand around a cluster, as in an industry cluster, as in this particular case of the luxury cluster, the fashion cluster, the automotive cluster, and so on. Cluster branding and the made-in factor are really represent a strategic solution. Okay, So the top-ranked nations, not surprisingly, if you look, including the United Arab Emirates, and I'm going to talk about the case of Dubai in a minute, including the United Arab Emirates as a non-industrialized nation from the top 20 ranks, all of the top-ranked nations have established a balance of nation brand based on a core cluster. There's a vision behind that. Cluster approach is to rebrand Dubai as a media hub. And not just the media cluster of Dubai, but also the financial cluster of Dubai, as in Dubai International Financial Center. The DIFC is really considered the source here when it comes to banking, financial service, and the Gate building is a landmark in Dubai downtown area. And here is another cluster that really changed Dubai also to become a financial hub. You would never have thought of Dubai as a financial hub 30 years ago. As a matter of fact, not even in the Gulf, because Manama, Bahrain, believe it or not, was the financial hub right after Cairo and Beirut. Now it is Dubai. Not only a regional financial hub, but truly a global financial hub. Another example is Jafsa, or what they are known as Jabal Ali Free Zone. And this is an incredible hub as well for trade. And they're building their own airport. They have their own port that is one of the busiest port cities in the world. And really changing the image of Dubai as an international trade hub. Okay, so all of these are, the hub branding or the cluster branding, if you will, have changed a brand like the Dubai brand in such a remarkable way. So nation branding elements are here related to aspects that are tangible and intangible. We have seen how the country name and logo, slogan, symbols, and all of these elements, how they are designed around cultural elements, as in the case of the Abu Dhabi example that I showed a little earlier. And then how the intangible assets of the nation brand that relate to the persona of the brand, the reputation of the brand, the regional alliances that the brand builds, as in the case of the European Union and GCC as examples here. So the persona of the brand is very important. When I say Spain, what comes to mind? When I say France, what comes to mind? When I say the US, what comes to mind? All of these are really persona attributes that are important in building the stature of the brand in a way to overcome, as I said, any potential negative stereotypes and defying that as well. Here, I'm going to turn the discussion a little bit around the tourism cluster, for example, and how the tourism cluster have really been built very uniquely around that aspect as well. So we'll find Jordan have done major rebranding around the tourism cluster, discover the Kingdom of Treasure, Brazil, sensational, Barbados, even Poland, Spain, smile, you are in Spain, Mexico, we just had a presentation by the director of the Mexican Travel and Tourism Authority here in Washington, and he talked about the launching of the new campaign for Mexico, the place you thought you know, which really discover the fantasies that relate to to Mexico, and really have focused heavily on the cultural component as well as an integral part of that. So what we are saying here, creating a positive, compelling brand promise is what the nation brand strategy is all about. Doing a periodic brand audit, and I always speak on that, and I say, in order to know where you're going, you need to know where you are at every point in time. And a brand audit is not a once in the life of the brand type of a monitoring mechanism. That should be really annually. To know, you have an annual financial audit. Why wouldn't you have an annual brand audit? The brand is the most important asset to your country. What does your nation brand strategy communicate? It's very important to understand the emotional equity of the brand revolving around the culture, but also the functional and the tangible aspects of the brand. And one key aspect of that relates to functionality around the cluster branding example that we talked about a little earlier. How to balance the brand based on that in order to position the destination or the country or the city or the region or the cluster hub, if you will, for tourism, technology, trade, even by sector, textile, luxury products, and so on, different ways of going about how to do that positioning. Here are some examples here in how nation branding strategy options. Let me just highlight one example that relate to the cluster branding and building alliances. The fashion industry cluster, for example, in Milan, is considered as a best practice for Italy. Italian Moda is the name of the brand, and they wanted to really show that, because a lot of designers say it's Italian design, but they wanted to differentiate that it is truly Italian design, that it is truly Milan as the hub, and they wanted to protect that element as very important aspect of the made in Italy example. Another example here is the advertising alliances in terms of the Silicon Valley iPad designed in California. They didn't say designed in the USA. They said designed in California. And what they are really hinting for, it is designed in the Silicon Valley of California. So here is really leveraging the power of the hub, the power of the cluster, and how we differentiate our brand from any other brand that we are competing against. Anchoring the nation brand around cluster branding, whether it is culture, heritage, manufacturing, industry, the cluster where you're focusing and building and anchoring the brand around is very important. And we have seen example after example in how successful this have been, particularly for emerging nation brands, where the resources are rather very limited and the marketing expertise are also limited and the marketing budgets are modest. So pooling the resources together around the cluster branding approach is very important in rethinking about how we change and defy prevailing stereotypes and how we move forward in building a stronger brand, sustainable differential advantage for our brands and for the future. Thank you for your attention, and we'll look forward to speaking with you in a future lecture. Good night.